together because we wanted to just have a discussion. And that's really all we want to do tonight. We wanted to bring together people who are providing services for homeless queer youth. Most of them, I think, work in the Castro or nearby. We just wanted to put together a forum to give us information, because it seems to me that a community that's armed with information is a community that can make some really well-informed decisions about things. And another thing that we wanted to do is that we wanted to get a work group going in the neighborhood of people who are concerned about the issue to talk about ways that we can help deal with homelessness in our community. So if you're interested, I'll be passing this around in a little while. If you want to sign up, give your name and email preferably. If you don't have email, your phone number so we can get in touch with you, because we do want to convene a group that will be people who are interested to talk about some of the issues that are raised tonight and some of the ways that we might be able to help. Okay, because that's what this is really all about. And I'm going to turn it over to Dennis Richards, who's with the Duboce Triangle Neighborhood Association. He's going to be your moderator tonight.
Hi, welcome everybody. I'm Dennis Richards. I'm the president of the Duboce Triangle Neighborhood Association. I'm also on the board of Eureka Valley Promotion Association. We're co-sponsors of the event with the group that Tommy helped form. A couple of items, if you're not familiar with either one of the organizations, there's two newsletters in the back, one from Duboce Triangle, one from Eureka Valley. Both neighborhood associations obviously realize that homelessness in the Castro and Duboce Triangle is an issue, and especially for queer youth, and that's why we signed up to help put this on. We have a format tonight so that we can get out of here by 9 o'clock but still get the right amount of information shared and get the views aired by the panelists as well as by the audience, questions answered. The first hour is we're going to have a quick introduction, a couple minutes each from the panelists. Then there's some questions that I'm going to ask during the first hour, and they're going to take turns answering them. They can jump in and figure out who feels the necessity to answer them as well. We'll pass around questions for you, papers for you to put down your questions, and I'll have those asked of the panelists, and they can take the option to answer them or not during the second hour. Okay? So any questions? No? Okay, great. Let's start with introductions. Please.
I'm Brenda Veskin. I'm a social worker with the Homeless Outreach Team, the Mission Castro District.
Great. Welcome, Brenda.
My name is Mary Howe. I'm the founder and director of Homeless Youth Alliance in the Haight.
I'm Dr. Mike Toohey. I'm a psychologist. I work with the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic, but I spend most of my time at the Homeless Youth Alliance working with the street kids. And I'm single. I'm letting everybody know.
That's great. This is the way to do it.
I'm Jennifer Friedenbach, and I'm the director of the Coalition on Homelessness.
Hi, my name is Beck, and I'm a youth program coordinator at the LGBT Community Center.
Hi, I'm JR, and I'm one of the youth.
Great. Welcome.
I'm Lachlan McHale, manager of Haight Street Referral Center and Outreach, both programs in North and Street.
Great. Wonderful. Okay, let's get into some of the questions. First question. These are questions that we have from the community that generally come up every meeting that I've been in. Most of these questions have been asked at one point or another. First one is, who are the youth people on the streets in the Castro? How many queer and trans youth are homeless in the city, and why? Feel free to jump in.
So it's a pretty broad question, and
Yeah.
maybe you guys can kind of jump in with numbers.
Start with who are they?
In the Castro specifically.
Yes.
So, there's going to be a mix of stuff, but I mean, in order to answer it, I think it's important to kind of step back a little bit and look at the context of homelessness and why we have such huge numbers of homeless people in San Francisco and every other large city in the United States, as well as, suburban areas and urban areas. In the Castro, you have a proportion of people who are homeless, much like other folks. And when you look at different studies that have been done, there's really no difference between poor people who are housed and poor people who are homeless. The only difference really being is whether or not they have a housing subsidy. So generally what you're talking about is poor people. So when we're, the proportions of people are pretty much the same in terms of you're going to have higher numbers of people with disabilities who tend to be more poor if they're unable to garner higher wages, et cetera. Higher proportions of people who are experience some form of oppression, societal oppressions, whether it's people of color, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think in the Castro, there, is a little bit of a nuanced difference, is that you have a much higher proportion of queer folks in general because of the situation of it being a Mecca where people who were put out of their communities across the country, who were left destitute, who have experienced oppression because of their either their gender identity or sexual orientation, you're going to have higher proportions of those folks in the Castro because of what the Castro is.
I think it's very
who the
similar
Castro
to
is.
that as like in the hate. Youth have always flocked to the hate because of the Summer 11, because of that history. And that's definitely very similar in the Castro.
Yeah. So
Brenda, what
that
do
would
you
be
see?
one.
In addition to that, I see there's a lot of people with a lot of mental health issues also that have been here long term for safety reasons. They feel safe here, and then there's a lot of people with substance abuse issues also. Depends on what street, what location. So it's a mixture of everything. Plus you have two parks. You have DuBose Park and Dolores Park. It's kind of border.
Okay. How many queer youth are there in the city and in the Castro? Any ideas?
Homeless or non-homeless or?
Homeless.
I have rough Larkin Street numbers for last year, just out of our overall outreach contacts. And outreach last year made 5,158 contacts, over 390 outreach shifts. 25% of the 390 outreach shifts were done in the Castro neighborhood, and the 30% of those that did intakes identified LGBTQI.
So that would be 30% of 5,000, 1,700?
And I know for us, although we don't actually work in the Castro, but of the youth we see at our center in the Haight, 34% identified queer in some way.
So about 30.
Yeah.
And a lot of the youth too move between the different neighborhoods
Definitely.
depending on services. So outreach is out doing outreach in all different neighborhoods, the different organizations, and then the drop-ins is, up in the closest drop-in for the majority of the youth is up in the Haight, whether it be Homeless Youth Alliance or the Haight Street Referral. So, it's just a small walk up and over the hill.
JR, is that your experience? About 1 in 3?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a lot. Most of the people that I see in the Castro that are homeless are queer.
Are they?
When I first moved here, it was mostly that, but now, I think more people, even people that aren't queer in the Castro that are homeless now.
I definitely think that it's higher in the Castro than it is even in the Haight.
Right.
By far.
And the youth who are here hanging out, although they may not be identifying themselves as LGB, there's a lot of questioning. A lot of questioning in the Haight, and I see those kids migrating back and forth.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I've been working at the center for a year now. I run the transitional age youth program, meaning the homeless, foster care, American transient. Basically, the 18 to 24-year-olds who no longer have access to the underage shelters, that is by far overrepresented disproportionately, and among that group, transgender and or genderqueer identifying and fluid gender identifying youth.
Okay. We're getting some folks in the back who are saying they're having a hard time hearing. I'm not sure if the mic's on. That's serving the video. Okay.
There's no
Speak up a little bit. That would be great. Last question. Why are they homeless? Jennifer?
And so, I kind of answered that to begin with,
Okay.
in terms of, I think over time what we've done, if you look historically about, homelessness in the United States, and if you look at a graph and just compare, for example, the housing funding. So starting in 1978, they started to have this big nosedive. And when housing funding was at its very lowest peak in 1983, our very first homeless shelter opened up in San Francisco. And at that time, I think people had some structural analysis around homelessness, and they recognized that these different very poor policy decisions had been made, and that we basically got rid of our safety net. And you compare the United States to other Western countries. It's not rocket science. It's easy to see where what countries that are as affluent as the United States, what policies they have in place to make sure that people have housing security, and then those countries who don't, like the United States, have huge numbers of people on the streets.